We're going to go ahead and get started.
All right, good evening. I would like to call to order the August 8th, 2022 Lake Washington School Board meeting. Let the record reflect that all board members are present this evening. So the board values public participation and engagement in the meetings of the board, and the board meetings will continue to be live streamed on the LWSD website and also archived after that if you want to view it at a different time. You are always welcome to email any individual board member at boardmembers@lwsd.org. So our first item of business is to approve the agenda. So I will now entertain a motion to approve the August 8th, 2022 agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Director Carlson and seconded by Director Choi to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All right, so our second item on the agenda tonight is for public comments. The Board of Directors of Lake Washington welcomes the public to the business meetings of the board and encourages our community engagement. We dedicate 30 minutes at these meetings to hear from the public during a public comment period. With the return to in-person meetings, we have updated the process to sign up for public comments. Please go to our website at lwsd.org/board/public comments to sign up to participate in public comments by noon of the day of the board meeting. Comments will be offered in the order of sign up, beginning with speakers, going in person, followed by virtual, and concluding with written comments as time allows. And so I'd like to begin with our first individual who we have signed up, and that would be Arthur Weiner. So please come forward. Thank you so much. If I could also ask, if you do have written comments at some point, if you could either email them to us or later, that would be great. Or if you could leave a copy with us, we can make sure that we all get a copy of it as well. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, Lake Washington School District Board members, Dr. Holman, and members of the community. My name is Arthur Weiner, and my wife and I have 3 children in the school district. Only now we're at 2 schools instead of 3. I stand before you this evening concerned about the rate at which spending has increased, while the quality of the service delivered for the cost is not increasing at the same rate, in my opinion. Before I comment on the spending, this budget shows an increase in tax revenue of $27 million, or 14% more than this past school year. This comes at a time when everyday members of our community are being hit hard by the rising cost of essential items. It's looking like we'll see an extended recession, with even more layoffs to be announced in the coming months. The higher taxes collected on behalf of the district will hurt many families. Looking forward in the budget, total tax revenue is projected to increase by 20%, while total revenue is increasing at 10%. The local taxpaying individual is projected to absorb more of the revenue burden as the district looks to fund itself. The problem with the district budget, as I see it, is the cost of the service delivered is increasing at a rate that isn't sustainable. We have 1% fewer FTE certified and classified staff dedicated to teaching activities than we did 2 years ago, and the cost of total teaching activities is projected to go up by 22%, $348 million now versus $285 million then. Are we then to believe going forward that expenditures before debt service and capital outlay will only increase 3.6% over the next 3 years? Not 3.6% per year, 3.6 in total. I went back to the budget summary where this upcoming school year represented year 4 of the 4-year forward-looking projections, which was the 2019-2020 budget. In that budget for this upcoming 2022-23 school year, projections had revenue at 13% higher than what is forecast now, $676 million now versus $778 then, while spending was anticipated to be 6.5% lower than the upcoming budget year. 721 now versus 677 then. The budget clearly indicates a decrease in expected student population. The enrollment figures indicated in the budget take us right to pre-pandemic levels. 30,440 students now versus $30,241 in the 18-19 school year. The general fund spending per student, however, is not at pre-pandemic levels. The spending per student has increased 34% to nearly $18,000 per student versus $13,000 just 5 years ago. Is $18,000 the right figure? 20, 25? When will it be the right figure? Increasing at a faster rate is the instruction cost per student. Certified and classified salaries plus benefits and taxes increases 37% compared with the 18-19 school year. I know my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you. Please wrap up.
What is mentioned in the organizational summary of the executive summary, and I quote, is Lake Washington School District is a high-performing, fast-growing public school district serving students in preschool through age 21. From what I can see, the only thing that's fast-growing is the rate at which the school district spends money. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person we have signed up to speak tonight is Ashira Singh. And just in case, if you aren't aware, we do have over here, we request that your comments are no longer than 3 minutes.
Yeah.
It'll be green, and when it goes yellow, you have a minute, and then it goes red. And if you could just wrap up when that happens, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Sounds good, thank you. Good evening, my name is Ashira Singh, and I'm a rising senior at Eastlake High School. I wanted to bring to your attention something that I'm sure you've heard suggested before, which is later start times for middle and high schools. I understand that the district has been addressing this issue and is aware of all the health problems associated with early start times and the recommendations from medical, psychological, and pediatric associations to push back start times. I understand that large concerns are transportation and childcare. I would like to point out that the work around this is dated to 2019, and I want to push for this issue to come back into the limelight because of how much teenagers suffer daily from sleep deprivation due to this deviation from adolescents' biological rhythms. After the coronavirus pandemic, I believe there should be a reevaluation of topics like traffic and travel time with a decrease in rush hour due to the increase in work from home. One proposition I have, which I'd like to give my friend Sam credit for, is to switch the start times of high schools and elementary schools in order to maintain the tiered bus system. Since elementary schoolers naturally wake up earlier than pubescent children, this would not have a negative effect on them, but it would allow for more sleep for high schoolers. Furthermore, this is also more reasonable in terms of childcare, since teenagers don't need to worry about being home alone until it's time to leave, but young kids do. There have even been families whose kids have had to stand outside in the cold for hours before the bus comes because their parents have left. Another concern is the later end times. There are ways that California, which I'm sure as you know has already made this change, and even other countries have dealt with this problem. For example, many California high schools allow greater flexibility in scheduling for students so that students in any year can choose as low as 5 periods and seniors can choose as low as 4. They also have the opportunity to arrange them, so if we adopted this practice, we could allow students to create schedules that allow them to come and get out later or earlier. Another option is shortening class times. In Finland, for example, high school classes are often 75 minutes long. If we made this change for block days, it would make up for the hour extension. It would also align more closely with the attention spans of students. In terms of extracurriculars, with this change, we could add more extracurriculars options before school on top of after school ones for students who prefer such a schedule. As for sports, we already have students playing in the dark or rain during fall and winter. And Irina Keller, a Berkeley alumna involved in the California start time law, notes that the chance for injury in student athletes would decrease with more sleep. I have friends in California who have all become grateful for this decision, and I'm sure most LWC students would react the same. Overall, what I and many of my peers suggest right now is a resurfacing of the importance of this issue, the switch of elementary and high school start times, schedule flexibility, and variability in extracurricular times. On behalf of all middle and high school students who struggle with sleep deprivation and its effects, I would like to urge LWC to push back start times for the sake of students' well-being. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next individual we have signed up is Victoria Doe, and she is online.
Hi.
Hi,
Can
Victoria.
you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone, Lake Washington School Board, for having me. My name is Victoria Doe. I am the Youth Market Director at the American Heart Association. I am so grateful to join you this evening to share my deep appreciation of Lake Washington School District's outstanding participation in the Kids Heart Challenge program this past year. I am so heartened by the support of your community, teachers, and administrators in helping the program be so successful this year. Over the many years of participation in Kids Heart Challenge, your schools have helped support the AHA's work in fighting heart disease and stroke and ensuring that every child has the opportunity to live a full and healthy life. For anyone here who's not familiar, Kids Heart Challenge is a fun-filled service learning program that promotes leadership while also educating students how to take care of their own heart, brain, and mental well-being. Students learn about teamwork, helping others, and the importance of physical activity and how it helps their bodies. These lifelong lessons give kids an early understanding that their heart can help prevent so many health problems, including heart disease and stroke, which are the two leading causes of death in the world. The funds raised by your schools through the Kids Heart Challenge support the AHA's work, life-saving work that include keeping physical activity and physical education in the schools, improving access to healthy and culturally relevant food, and advocating for policies and laws that promote health and well-being, including reforming tobacco laws that disproportionately impact youth from marginalized communities. The fundraising dollars your schools raise have also been used for research between the connection between COVID-19 and heart impact. This past year, we had 7 outstanding schools who participated and completed the Kids Heart Challenge program this year. I would like to give my appreciation and shout out to Ben Franklin Elementary, led by Andrea Rulon and Keith Butchler, Krista McCullough, ran by Stacy Strong and Brady Howden, Ella Baker Elementary, ran by Carolyn Towles and Kim Belanco, Lakeview Elementary, ran by John Owens and Heather Frazier, Louisa May Alcott, ran by Mark Rabatoy and John Hedden, Samantha Smith, ran by Russell Bear and Jamie Warner, and Wilder Elementary, ran by Melora Rouse and Steve Roshender. The partnership of these 7 schools had a huge impact. 4,000 families this year were able to connect to new health and mental well-being resources. $6,000 were given back to your community in the form of U.S. Games to allow schools to purchase additional PE and recess equipment. And the dollars raised by your schools is equivalent to training 2,000 individuals in life-saving CPR. So I just wanted to extend my deep appreciation and gratitude to your schools and to the entire school district. Thank you for your generous community, amazing teachers, amazing staff and faculty. You are making a difference in your community and around the world, and I look forward to working and connecting with more schools throughout Lake Washington for years to come.
Thank you very much. And so that is the end of all the verbal comment that we have. We did receive one written comment in regards to school start times. And so this is from Anna Maria Stolfo. She said, teenagers are going through a biological change that makes them unable to fall asleep before 11 p.m. Early school start for them leads to daytime drowsiness, trouble paying attention, low academic performance, driving accidents, and mental problems. We ask for a late start for high and middle school, as other districts, Woodinville, and states, California, have done. And that is the end of public comments this evening, so thank you very much for participating. So our next item on the agenda is the approval of the August 8, 2022 consent agenda. I will now entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Director LaLiberty and seconded by Director Carlson to approve the consent agenda. Dr. Holman, will you pull the board?
Yeah, Director LaLiberty,
Yes.
Director Stewart,
Yes.
Director Carlson,
Yes.
Vice President Choi,
Yes.
and President Bleasner.
Yes. And motion carries. So the next item on our agenda is the public hearing on the adoption of the 2022-23 budget. Dr. Holman?
Absolutely, thank you. And so I'm going to ask Associate Superintendent Barbara Posthumus to come up, and she and her team have worked diligently, as the board knows, over the past few months to take a lot of new information and make sense of it in our budget reports. The board has received study sessions regarding the budget, provided feedback and input. You've received the presentation of the formal budget, and tonight we have our public hearing regarding the adoption of the 22-23 budget. Barbara?
Thank you very much. Again, tonight is our public hearing for the 22-23 budget that the board will take action on August 22nd. And just a reminder, the board is adopting the F-195 budget document. That's the official state format that's submitted to the state. We are required to adopt the budget by August 31st and file it with the Educational Service District by September 3rd. The draft budget was presented to the board on June 27th. We have not made any changes to the budget as we shared to the 2023 budget as we shared with the board. We did update the projections in the from 23, 24 and beyond in the capital projects fund. So that was changed since June. We've posted the budget on the website, and the required ads were placed in the local papers for today's public hearing. Copies of the budget were made available to anybody that was interested, and then we did provide a place to email comments, and as of this date, we did not receive any comments. We also have our budget summary to provide additional transparency for the community and to show how our resources are aligned with our strategic goals. That has been included in the board packet, or was shared with the board over the summer because we did not have the budget summary available in June. It was added to the website in early July and shared with the board, and it is included in tonight's board materials. So again, if any interested community members would like hard copies of the budget, they are available, but it is also on our website. So the budget, the resolution, the draft resolution is included in your board packet, and that contains the appropriations for each fund. And again, just wanting to give my thanks to everyone that participated in the budget process this year, and the budget office staff for their hard work in putting the budget together.
All right, thank you. So at this time, I will open the public hearing for the adoption of the 2022-23 budget. State statutes requires the board to hold a public hearing and adopt the budget by resolution. Is there anyone present who wishes to address the board on this topic this evening? If so, please come forward to the podium and provide your name and comments.
My name is Arthur Weiner, and I will read the section that I skipped in my 3 minutes. The budget clearly indicates a decrease in expected student population. The enrollment figures indicated in the budget, 30,440. In this budget year, 30,241 in the 2018-2019 year. I use that year as June of 2019 would have been the last closing school year pre-COVID. The general fund spending per student, however, is not at pre-pandemic levels. The spending per student has increased 34% to nearly $18,000 per student versus $13,460 just a few years ago. When will it be enough? Increasing at a faster rate is the instruction cost per student. Certified and classified salaries, plus benefits and taxes, increased 37% compared to the 18-19 school year. The district is showing 13% more certified and classified employees for this school year, while enrollment has increased less than 1% over that time. The added headcount has reduced the ratio of students to district FTEs from 10.2 to 9.2. This seems to be good news, a step in the right direction, though I don't see class size reduction being championed in the budget document. Class sizes becoming smaller is not a phrase or concept mentioned anywhere in the executive summary. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on the public hearing on the budget? All right, seeing no one to make comment this evening, the public hearing is now closed. Please note the board is scheduled to take action at the August 22nd board meeting to adopt resolution number 2340, adoption of the 22-23 budget. And so our next item on the agenda tonight is we will be monitoring Operational Expectation 5 and Operation Expectation 6, 2 of our 14 policies. These reports cover the 2021 school year, September to August, and through these policies, the board establishes its values about how the school district is expected to operate and the express conditions that must exist as business is conducted. The monitoring reports contain the superintendent's interpretation of policy language, a review of current conditions, and monitoring data. These monitoring actions make it part of the board's oversight of the organization and assures the board that its operational standards have been met. So next on the agenda is monitoring operational expectation, OE5, financial planning. So Dr. Holman, will you please provide and present a summary of this report?
Absolutely. And before I present OE5, I do want to just comment that we're working on updating the timing of when we do monitoring for both the operational expectations and our results policies. And so we're at a place right now where we're monitoring OE5 and 6 here in August, and then in the coming months, we will monitor OE5 and 6 again with data from the 21-22 school year. And so I believe I updated the board briefly. You'll see some pieces such as in OE5 tonight, like it's referencing the 2019-2020 audit. When we monitor OE5 again in the coming months, it will reference the audit from the 2020-21 school year. So that's those are just some of the decisions that we had to make as we changed timing for our monitoring. And so tonight, we'll start with OE5 financial planning. And the policy states, the superintendent shall develop and present to the board a multi-year financial plan that is related directly to the board's results, priorities, and operational expectations goals, and that avoids long-term fiscal jeopardy to the district. So a couple of key factors that I want to point out, a couple of positive outcomes in this report. First, it's been a complex few fiscal years that we've been navigating with changes in both revenues and expenditures. And so just our budget team has had to work very hard to manage those complexities. Over the board was apprised and aware of that changing budget picture. And so you received updates both in writing, but we also held additional study sessions for the board to be updated about some of these changes. We also, even with all of the unique changes, ESSER funds coming in, those types of things, we were able to meet both our internal timelines that we set for ourselves, but also the external timelines that we're required to meet. One area in OE5 that I believe we have some work to do is around our community engagement processes. And so right now, community engagement is not what we state we value. As a board, as a district, we state that community involvement and engagement is of high value. When in the past, we've thought about the surveying that we've done with the community. We've considered our public comment, these types of things as that community engagement. As we move forward, I want to look at some of the other opportunities that will be presented to us potentially when we are holding linkage sessions, when we're with the community, actually specifically asking questions to hear feedback around places that we're funding, opportunities, things that the community is interested in so that we can embed that into our budget work, but also so that we can represent that in the monitoring report. Tonight, OE5 is presented in compliance for all 11 components of OE5. It does reference the 2020-21 school year.
Thank you very much. with that, I will entertain first off, I should ask, are there any direct questions to Superintendent Holman? Sorry, been a long day.
I guess I'll ask this now. Dr. Holman, you referenced first of all, I appreciate the work that's gone into revamping the order and the timing of our monitoring reports. Do you have a sense right now when we will see OE5 again? I know you said in a matter of weeks, but could you give me a rough meeting that we're?
My guess is it will be right around November,
Okay.
early December.
Okay, great. That's excellent. Okay, thank you.
Director Choi.
My one comment was around what you just mentioned, the community outreach surrounding our budget process, and I appreciate and look forward to learning a bit more about that community input for our future years to come. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so seeing no more questions, thank you very much for the overview. I also appreciate the community engagement piece. That was definitely a question that I had in regards to things. Now, it is the board's responsibility to consider the report as evidence of the district's performance in this area of operation. A reminder of the criteria we have agreed to. The superintendent interpretation of the current policy as written is reasonable, and the superintendent has provided evidence to assure the board that the organization is in compliance with the provisions of this policy. So with that, I will now entertain a motion to accept and approve the report as presented by the superintendent.
I move to accept and approve the report as presented by the superintendent, which is in compliance.
Second.
It has been moved by Director LaLiberty and seconded by Director Stewart to approve the report as presented and in compliance. Is there any further discussion? Director LaLiberty, you look like you have something.
Again, I want to recognize the work that's gone into. A problem with the report right now, which is being fixed, is that we're getting this, the data is old at this point. I think that's a fair way of framing it. And so I appreciate, it will be much more meaningful the next time we see this report. So I really appreciate the thought that's gone into that. I think that if we're really doing our job in monitoring the data, can't be old when we're monitoring it. Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay, so with that, I will take a vote. As to all those in favor of approving the report as presented, please signify by voting aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Well, thank you very much. Looking forward to the community engagement component and what happens there. That's a big piece, so lots of opportunities. So with that, we will move on to Operational Expectation 6, Financial Administration. This, you'll see, also follows a similar thing as OE5 in regards to the timing. And so I will go ahead and let Dr. Holman explain that a little bit and give us the highlights on OE6.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the policy statement around OE6 financial administration says that the superintendent shall not cause or allow any financial activity or condition that materially deviates from the budget adopted by the board, cause or allow any fiscal condition that is inconsistent with achieving the board's results priorities or meeting any operational expectations, or places the financial health of the district in jeopardy. And so I just want to recognize last year, OE6, one of the areas was out of compliance. And that was 6.1, assure that payroll and legitimate debts of the district are promptly paid when due. We had an error, if you recall, last year, and it was a substantial error. We ultimately paid it, but it was, the team did put a procedure in place, put some additional checks and balances, and while it was an error that probably could be due to staff going to remote work, it literally occurred right then, it still doesn't negate our obligation to assure that we are paying our legitimate debts on time. And so just want to call out that the team did put a procedure in place, and you'll see this report does have that, that all accounts payable payments were paid within 30 days of receipt or per contract agreements, as the policy calls out. You'll also notice in OE6 positive audit results for the 2019-2020 school year. Implementation of state requirements for accounting procedures, investment, and spending are all in alignment with policy and the law. And the use of fund balance to address needs across the system related to COVID-19 is in alignment with the board's policies, because the board does expect that we use available funds to address the board's results policies and operational expectations. And so this report evaluates 13 components of OE6, all of which are being reported as in compliance.
Thank you. Any questions or clarifications for Dr. Holman on this operational expectation? All right, thank you. So with that, I will entertain a motion to approve OE6 as presented, as in compliance.
Move approval as presented.
Second.
It has been moved by Director Carlson and seconded by Director Liberty to approve OE6 monitoring report as in compliance as presented. Any further discussion on financial administration?
I just want to flag a lot of the good work that's gone into this. As a board member, I've always felt that I understand where the district is at financially. I appreciate too that we receive regular updates and not just annually on these issues. And I reflect back on the issue, or the one area of non-compliance from, I can't recall, a year ago. I guess it would have then occurred in 2020. And I appreciated that coming to the board's attention immediately too. And for what it's worth, I'm glad we fixed it. And I also I appreciate that the other side of the equation, our collecting of accounts receivables, has always been in compliance.
Any other points of discussion? All right, hearing none, then we'll take a vote. All those in favor of approving the report as presented, please signify by voting aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, so with that, our next item on the agenda is actually doing the operational expectation 14, the policy that was developed last year, and we are now working on the reasonable interpretation and the indicators for that piece. And that's OE 14 for anti-racism, discrimination, equity, and inclusion. And so with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Holman.
And I do just want to point out that my notes have this as the board's first reading. And so, Vice President Choi, I believe I said we need to get those things finalized for tonight. While those need to be voiced tonight, the adoption of the reasonable interpretations and indicators will be at the August 22nd meeting. And so we don't need to get it strike through an underlined version for the board to adopt tonight. We'll make any needed changes between now and then. As the board knows.
I can just say what,
Yes.
so that means we will not be taking a motion on it to approve. It'll just be open for discussion tonight on first reading.
Yes, yes. And any changes that do need to be made, want to make sure we capture those so that we can get that to the board so that you see that before you take action on it at the August 22nd meeting. And so the work the board has put into operational expectation 14, as you know, has been quite substantial and significant community engagement. The board has participated and will continue participating in training related to issues of equity. And this work here is representative of, again, significant back and forth between the board and superintendent to develop an interpretation and indicators that provide for what we believe will be a meaningful monitoring of OE 14 in October. And so what you have presented here tonight is the updated version of interpretation and indicators based on our previous study sessions. My notes, navigating board comments that at times were in conflict with one another, but trying to land on what I believe really does align with the board's voice, expectations, and what the discussion did represent. And so that's what's presented here tonight for discussion.
All right, so with that, I will open it up to any points of discussion. Hopefully, you've all had the chance to read through it. If, as you're speaking to any questions you have or suggestions or change, just highlight specifically which policy or which section you're speaking to in regard to, so that people can follow along. Director Choi.
I just had a minor recommended language change for a couple of indicators for the policy. So specifically in, for example, OE 14.5, under an indicator of compliance, it references percentages for a couple of indicators, but it doesn't specify what we're looking for in that percentage. Is it an increase, or is it a decrease, or is it just a stagnant percentage point that we're looking at? If we could just clarify those indicators. I believe it's in 14.5 and 14.9.
When I look at 14.5, I believe each of those is percent of students. It's an increase in the percent of students reporting. And then in 14.9,
Is a decrease, I believe.
decrease. Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else, Director Choi? Okay, Director Carlson.
You know, yeah, okay. So in 14.1, the SOUP's interpretation, I am broadly pleased. We start with, so ensure students have an anti-racist, inclusive, equitable, welcoming, and safe classroom environment. The interpretation starts with, I interpret an anti-racist classroom to be. Then, I think that the second paragraph here might be what you mean by I interpret an inclusive classroom to be. If it's not, you should put inclusive classrooms explicit definition in there somewhere. Because you do have an interpretation on equitable and safe and welcoming. I'm willing to let that slide. But an inclusive classroom would be nice to have that called out explicitly. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
I had
Director
a-
Choi.
Sorry, I had a
No,
really
that's
brief
fine.
question. In 14.6, under indicator of compliance, when we refer to 80% of staff reporting high levels of satisfaction and sense of belonging, how did we land on 80%? I can't recall.
I'll have to go back into my notes to see if that was a discussion point, and I'll provide that update to the board in writing.
Director La Liberty.
Oh, I just wanted, I think it's important, this is the board speaking as a voice here, so I just wanted to echo that I agree with Director Choi's proposed revisions to the indicators, as well as Director Carlson.
Director Stewart.
Yeah, try Eric's. Technology has never been my friend, okay? There's gremlins that follow me around, I swear to God. And if you didn't think I was speaking from the voice of power. I want to, I appreciate all the work that's gone into these. And I believe that especially during such a time of upheaval, again, going back to the one on budget where the one item was missed because of the upheaval, I'm surprised it wasn't 10 missed, to be quite frank. If it had been my accounting, trust me, you'd have been in a lot of luck. Second of all, though, that this is an ongoing problem. We know that anxiety levels are up. We know that anxiety levels in different groups. Services were difficult to manage and deliver, to be quite frank. And there's a shortage of qualified therapists, There's a shortage of qualified SPED teachers, paras, IAs, you name it, there's a shortage. To be quite frank, we're lucky that as bad as it is maybe in the shortage here, it's worse in other states. And in fact, I've been trying to recruit some of my friends from down home, but that's beside the point. That said, I think this is something we have to keep a close eye on and a continuous eye on, because it's a very quick, a minor mistake can blow up into a bigger confrontation that doesn't need to be there for any group, whether it's the special needs group that I'm very much in touch with, whether it's LGBTQA, whether it's any of the other ethnic or racial or economic groups, and recognizing that there's subsets of everyone. And I think that's something we have to really keep in mind, because for us to say that it's that one group speaks with one voice, that'd be like saying every autistic student is alike, and they're not. If you met one student, you met one student, as they say. So I really want to keep our eyes on the ball for the future and the future reports. And I'll be looking through this one with a wonderful fine-tooth comb. Not saying you haven't done a good job, but I want to make sure that we put so much effort into this that we don't end up having it be lip service, because that'd be the worst thing we could do if we went through all that time, all that effort, all that input from the public, and we just kind of let it lay there and kind of stroke it occasionally. We're out of luck. It was for naught, and to be quite frank, we should be held accountable if we do.
Yeah, can I comment on that real quick? I fully agree with that sentiment, Director Stewart. I think the monitoring cycle that we're entering into, the fact that we're actually doing it earlier in the year, will actually give the board an opportunity to have the discussion you're talking about. Because, well, for this one, we will monitor for the first time, and that will be, it'll be interesting to see how that comes together, how it plays out, and how it lives in a report. The board might say that doesn't meet our expectation for monitoring, but it actually gives us time to make those adjustments and changes because we've updated the timeline for our monitoring. So I think that's a benefit of changing the timeline, because then the board can do their work around policy. I also, when I think about like our changes to R3, that kind of gets to some of your earlier comments just around the social emotional well-being of our students, mental health concerns. At our next study session, Director of Student Services Johnny Fu will be there to present some of that information to the board around program services, but also he'll discuss staffing levels and things like that as well. So thank you.
Director Stewart?
I must say, and I want to commend the fact that we have been very resourceful in reaching out to partner with groups around the communities, which we couldn't have. Well, first of all, there's not enough of them. Not enough counselors and so forth that we could hire to have on staff, nor would we have the budget for it, to be quite frank. And without those partnerships with YES and the hospitals we've partnered up with, we'd be even harder pressed to provide the services we're providing. Should we provide more? Yes. The kids out there are really in need right now. Just the normal stresses of going through school was bad enough, but add the last 2 years, it has exacerbated a lot of it. And I think that as we work towards getting a later school start time, but yet also trying to balance that with the needs of the younger students, I think that it's really important that we have those services, and I'm glad that we have those partnerships. Thank you.
So as we look at the indicators and the interpretation of OE14, any further discussion around? So I'm hearing there were a few changes that were being requested. Makes complete sense of being able to do so. The alignment of a definition in regards to us. We have reviewed this many times. I do see a lot of incorporation already of some of the feedback that has come back. I appreciate the addition of adding a broader range of methodologies in collecting information, such as focus groups, and looking at, as this is very perception heavy and oriented in many ways. So it is very beneficial to be able to pull in some of those qualitative strategies to be able to do so. And I think it will be the challenge is we can sit here and talk about it for a long time, or go forward and see how actually filling it in with information will provide, if it gives us what we need, or if there's additional tweaks that could be made. For the most part, I'm very happy with what I see in regards to the incorporation of the information. Director Carlson.
Broadly, I agree with you on all of that. I was actually just going to say, is it as a board valuable for us to put before this time, you should probably come back to this as a note to because at the bottom of it, we have board approval, August 22nd, 2022. Do we want to add suggested review date on or before 2025? It's not something we've done historically, but it is something that, personally, I'm hoping that we review it pretty rapidly next year to see what went right, what went wrong. But in the longer term, it might be worth having a suggested cycle for how often we want to just tell the local board, whoever's on the board then, it's time to reopen it, make sure you agree with everything, and then close the box again.
So I would say actually as part of our whole policy, at each of our policies, we should be considering if there are changes to the reasonable interpretation or the evidence that's needed or the indicators, each time we review that on an annual basis. So at the process of when we monitor it, then there could be, okay, here are additional questions around this policy that we have that we'd like to see changes. And at that point, as a board, we could say, we want to revisit this in 3 months to be able to revise these components in regards to this reasonable indicators or these thoughts. I think you build it into the overall process as a continual piece as opposed to setting up a special time for it.
And I'm comfortable with that as well. It's just I was looking at it and thinking, gosh, I've never noticed anything that said, hey, expires by.
So I would just recommend as we do the board comments and as we do the monitoring report, that assertion of compliance, that's where we would highlight those pieces and that we would want to revisit at some point.
I agree with
Director
that.
Liberty?
I have a question for Director Carlson. Were you speaking to the indicators of compliance or the policy language itself, or both?
I was actually thinking more about the policy language
Yeah.
as something, but it's just something where, at least for the moment, I would like to close this, see how it works, and then reopen it and see what is and what is not working. It's a first draft, but let's get it on.
And so I would say what we would do then is you do the monitoring, and then that's then the review of the policy after we do the monitoring of, if this works, we learned that this one didn't have the definition that we need. I think just even if you look at OE5 that we did in regards to budget and community engagement being the two that we spoke to on 5.9, I think it is, we are not clear in that policy about community engagement and what that means. And so we need to decide if we want to be more specific in doing so. And I think we can do the same thing here. You're thinking about something, Director Liberty, go.
I'm just wondering from a process standpoint, we're getting a little off this, but I'm going to keep going anyway. From a process standpoint, so I think there's many ways we go about reviewing the policy language itself for all of our policies. One is, while we are monitoring it, we can also have a discussion and flag any policy language. I will say, I statements here. When I review a monitoring report, I am focused on the task of, is this in compliance, and reviewing the data that's presented and whether that's hitting the interpretations. I am less focused on our policy language at that time. And so for me, I'm now just telling everyone my own failings as a board member. I am not able to necessarily focus enough on, does the sometimes it jumps out, but for the most part, I'm not focusing on our language. And so I think it has to be almost a separate process, a review of our policy distinct from the monitoring of that policy. I don't know if that's the same for everyone, but that's how it is for me.
Director Choi.
I think this is a unique circumstance where this is a brand new policy, and so it does warrant a consideration of revisiting at a specified date and time, a more comprehensive kind of digestion of how did this policy work. I think for our established policies, the ones that are in regular rotation and have been around forever, it makes sense to address any changes in language or whatnot while we're monitoring. But I see the value, I think, in what Director Carlson is suggesting.
So I would propose we look at the extended study session in March, and we would add it onto the agenda there. That would be a time we would have had the monitoring report by that time, would have time to have discussed that, and then would have the opportunity then to dive into that in a little more in-depth and be able to go through. And I would highlight that for any sort of policy where we might see more of what we want to be able to go into. Thoughts?
It works for me. I mean, operationally, I'm with Eric. There's was it implemented? And then did we ask for the right things? And being able to step back and ask that second question is something we can only do after we've done monitoring. So I think the cycle that you just proposed works great.
Okay, perfect. The other option would be January in that shorter session that we have, but I think that one's already pretty well booked at this point. All right, any other questions on OE 14?
Not a question. Can I yes and what you said?
You are more than welcome
So
to.
yes, and yes to March, and I am wondering, this is a wonder, whether, I don't know if you were speaking to just the review of the policy language in OE 14 at the March study session. I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity to look at all of our policies. That may be far too. No, I mean on a system, in a systematic way. So it may not just be in March, but the March study session now lasts all of March. Sorry, everyone. But you know, so that's again, I think there's value in having a systematic way for the board to scrutinize our own policies. And this hadn't really clicked for me until now. So that's why I'm voicing this now.
Yes, I think there is a way to look at doing that. I think there's multiple different components. I also think of, as we've had things brought to our attention in the sense of sustainability, and that component and that piece. You know, we have the facilities policy that does not truly lay out, that value is not captured within our policies, and that is a value that's coming through our community pretty strongly. So how do we start to look at those and review those things? I think some you can do. I think some of these policies, you highlight like this one just isn't clear, or we need to go in further here, and we can do that. We can figure out the work plan, so I'll meet with John and Leah and I will meet to sort of try to see how we can structure in some of that review of policy on a consistent basis and come up with a structure. I'm hesitant to say you do all of them in one sitting because it is way too much. Okay,
Just to be clear.
just letting you know.
That's not what I meant. I just meant we should, okay.
I think we can capture sections and do that, the key ones that we want to tackle. How's that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, it's working this time. I'm going to stay far away from it. I wonder if March really is too late, and to me, January perhaps would be more effective. I'd hate to have these things lapse too long. If we can't get data by then, that's one thing, but it's...
So we'll be clear, the monitoring report will be in the fall.
Right.
And I believe it's set for, October? It's set for October.
But to review the policy, then not in wait till March.
At that time, we'll be reviewing the policy. I mean, what I'll say is, as we do the monitoring report, I would recommend, as you're reading through it and doing the monitoring report, you're making notes in regards to any policies that you might have questions on or concerns. Those then we can provide to Dr. Holman and everybody, and then we can dive into those at the extended study session to be able to make the changes needed for the following monitoring session. Does that make sense? And January might be a better time. It's just a matter of looking through the whole schedule to look to see how that falls out. Okay. So the other item on our agenda is looking at ensuring we review our policies in a systematic process. Okay, that's good. Any other discussions on OE 14? All right, do you have any questions of the board on OE 14?
I do not.
All right,
Thank
just
you.
thought I'd check to make sure. So with that, we'll end the first reading of the policy. So if you have any additional questions, please be sure to send them to the superintendent so that he can follow up on those and we can make sure that those things are addressed for the second reading. So this will come back at August 22nd. If you have any questions, I said bring them up early. If anybody in the audience has questions, you can feel free to email to Dr. Holman or as well to the board, and we can look to include that sort of feedback as well as you go through that. So thank you. Anything else? Okay, with that, we're going to close that agenda item. And we are going to move on to the superintendent report. So Dr. Holman.
Yeah, I just want to give an update around some of the work that we launched today. All of our district administrators started their week of professional learning and professional development. We're meeting at Redmond High School, and the planning for this started long ago. And what we really tried to do was to have coherence between what we are asking of our teachers and the development of the leadership for our leaders in the system. And we have what I call kind of three pillars of our strategic plan, and that's multi-tiered systems of support, inclusion, and equity. So MTSS, inclusion, and equity. But those really are connected. It's really about our students' experiences and environments. It's about the support for the academic learning needs, the social-emotional learning needs of our students. And when I look through the week that our administrators will experience, it really is focused on building their capacity to lead this work. Each of our buildings obviously has to make decisions, and they have to make sense of it for their own school. In particular, when we're talking about our inclusion work or our work around MTSS, that's large-scale work that we're asking our schools to take on, and there's district-level supports for that, and we need our principals leading that work in their buildings, supporting their teachers, supporting their communities, engaging with their families, making decisions about the students that they're serving. And so that's what this entire week is about for our leaders. And I just want to express appreciation to our central office administrators that have truly developed a plan for this entire week that weaves in our work, our focus on equity, ensuring that our students have what they need to be successful, the various sessions and learning outcomes related to more inclusive practices, practices that actually address the academic, social, emotional well-being of our students. And so it was exciting to launch this morning. I had a chance to provide some opening comments to our leaders. And it was fun to introduce and welcome those that are new to Lake Washington School District. While they start on July 1, they don't actually get to meet everyone until about August 1st. And so it was exciting to welcome them, and just a sense of hope, a sense of excitement around this new school year that each of our leaders, both centrally and in our buildings, brought with them this morning. And so it was great to see everybody back together. We're excited for a new year. And today, it really was the launch of this next school year for us as we start this professional learning. Now, it isn't the first activity. Last week, we brought all of our new administrators together for a couple of things. One, some required training around professional growth and evaluation. So the evaluations of teachers, spent about 2 days with them, really focused on best practices and expectations around that evaluation process. In particular, there's a requirement component of it, but it's also when we think about improved learning of students, a principal's greatest leverage is working with and helping teachers grow and develop. So that was 2 days of very well-spent time. And then subsequent to that, on Thursday, our directors of elementary and secondary education provided really a day of orientation for our new leaders as You can't teach them everything all at once because it's a big system, but trying to get them connected with people, kind of knowing systems, and giving them that baseline information, which then leads into the start of this week for all of our administrators. So it's an exciting day. Great to see everybody, and really appreciate the work that went into today being successful and this week being successful.
Wonderful, thanks so much. All right, the next item on our agenda is Public and Community Affairs. Director Stewart, do you have anything to report?
Yes, I do. Been meeting with a number of our legislators. In particular, I'll be meeting again tomorrow with Senator Dingra, and and she and Senator Wellman are working on a piece of legislation regarding special needs kids, and especially those kids whose needs can't be actually addressed within the district. It's rare, but it happens. And unfortunately, because Washington State doesn't have facilities, these kids are forced to be scattered all over the country. And we want to work very closely with the senators to make sure that this issue is addressed, because it's bad enough if you have to have them one county over. I can't imagine trying to keep that relationship up and the needs that student needs or that child needs half a country or a full country away. Anyway, also, I've been having individual meetings with some of our city council folks, just looking at issues that are important to us, looking at some of the problems we've encountered, how we can perhaps address them in a very easy manner. Tomorrow will be a first meeting since June, I believe. Unfortunately, the East Side Human Services Forum had to skip July. Tomorrow will be the first meeting since early summer, and we are looking at their legislative agenda as well. I should note, if you haven't noticed already, in downtown Redmond, Centro Cultural Mexicano is moved a bit. It has got finally some room to actually operate. You may recall that across from the Redmond Bar and Grill, that used to be a bridal shop. Now they've moved into those facilities. They aren't quite all in yet, and they're going to keep the other area for cultural training, especially arts and that sort of issues. But I'll keep you appraised of those developments as they come.
Thank you. I think, is there any other updates? I'd like to just put out that the WASDA Legislative General Assembly will be at the end of September on the 30th. So the WASDA positions have come out in regards to that. So in sort of following up in regards to priorities and that component, we'll be sending out a survey for you to sort of see what those positions are and where they stand, what we've done sort of in the past, if you remember, and then work through those priorities. Director Stewart and I were able to meet last week to sort of discuss what that process would be. So this is just one place in which to get sort of where is the state sort of view in regards to WASDA's positions, as these are voted on across the board. The assembly is also being held virtually this year. So this is a great opportunity if you have the chance to be able to participate in this on the Friday and Saturday, September 30th and October 1st. So just be aware of that. So there'll be more to come in the next couple weeks because we need to get those priorities so that we can prioritize the top 15 positions at the end of that conference. So that'll be helpful to walk through to know if there's any questions so we can clarify those, and if those are any that we personally as a district want to be able to take on as a priority to really sort of push. They've done a lot of nice consolidations through though. So you'll see that probably sometime early next week. Any questions? Go ahead, Leah. Dr. Choi.
Is the virtual General Assembly something that we need to register for if we
Yes.
wanted to participate?
You can just go online. I believe there's no cost associated is there a cost? I don't remember. There might be, but actually Teresa can help out with that in registering you for the center. But Mark will be the delegate. If you're attending, Mark, the only one person can vote at a time, but as many of us can attend, but only one person can vote at any one time. We can pass the delegate credential to a different person, but only one can vote each time. Director Stewart.
Interesting how to do that remotely, too, so.
It is. It's all quite well handled. They have all these done from last year. They were able to work out these protocols. So with that, that's kind of a very important time. It sort of sets a whole statewide agenda. WASA does a lot of work on the ground, so having our voice well heard and understood in that setting and partnering with our surrounding districts is always beneficial and going forward to help shape sort of the state legislation and what occurs there. Anything else? Just wanted to give that one as a quick. The only other thing I'll highlight to you, a lot of our cities are doing their comp plans, their comprehensive plans, so they have to figure out the next 50 years. So pay attention to your local city and make sure they're including schools and how they think about how that growth comes. And if they're not, remind them. So reach out and do so. It actually is highly beneficial as they start to do this and look at how they zone and do different components. Now's the time to build this into the city planning going forward. So that's a role we can play in being able to be that voice. All right. I think that's it. Do you have anything on this one? Okay. So the next piece we had was an equity update. I think part of tonight you saw we're moving through with the administrative policy for OE14 that was presented today at the study session in draft form for review, and then we're looking at the monitoring report for OE14 and the indicators. So we'll have more to go on that, and we will continue that work. Well, there will also be an update about the community equity and family engagement program that has been postponed from tonight's study session because we ran out of time to an upcoming study session, and that will be determined in the next week or so. All right. Next item up is board member comments. Director Choi.
I just wanted to remind anybody or inform anyone who might not know that we are going to be having our very first 2 student representatives to the board joining us at our next board meeting for their official first board meeting. And we'll also be having an orientation for them in the next week or so to get them ramped up. But we're very excited that they will be joining us and looking forward to hearing what they have to say and participating in this process with us.
Thank you. And Director Stewart.
Following in on that, I do have a meeting with one of our new students. Turns out he and I both share the interest in having debate a little bit better utilized in our school system and offered as a class as opposed to just a club. If you have a student interested in algebra, they have a class. If you have a student interested in debate, club. Anyway, hey, I took 4 years of debate in high school, so that's kind of my thing. I want us to keep an eye on the ball as we're looking. I know we're going to be meeting with the transit authorities, if you will, on routes, times, so forth, at least an initial discussion. But we're at a point with the start times that we're really, it's not a matter of how we can do it, but how soon we can do it, how well we can do it, and how to make it work, regardless of the barriers that we have. If we don't, it's going to end up like California, where it's going to be instituted for us. Then it'll be a mad scramble, and that'll be even a harder hoop to jump through, to be quite frank. As you're meeting with the various district staff and the meetings such as over Redmond High School, Dr. Holman, I really would like to impress upon you that I think the best salespeople, if you will, the best evangelists, if you will, of our inclusion work are going to be our principals. And getting them on board, getting them excited about it, and seeing the advantages to their students, to their performance, I don't see how we'll be able to do it without them, to be quite frank. And if we don't have them on board, and they're giving kind of, oh, well, it's not in the program, we're sunk. And lastly, I haven't seen, I'm hoping to see soon, an update on grading system situation that we had in the high schools first reared its head in December, then it quieted down, of course, after finals, then all of a sudden it reared its head again around graduation time. The overemphasis or the higher emphasis on tests as opposed to homework, going from like a 90 to 10 to 1090 for some kids. It started in the AP classes. Grading is something that is individual, by the teachers, by their programs, as it should be. But when it came in like that, we have to take a look at how it had an impact, because it started with the AP classes and it bled into the other classes. And we have a lot of kids coming out of COVID with a lot of high anxieties, and putting the stress on one test, two tests a semester for a lot of those kids was incredibly crushing. That's all.
Thank you, Director Stewart. I'd also just like to give a heads up so that you're all over our work plan, the annual work plan we're putting together. Director Choi and I will be meeting with Dr. Holman to review the second draft, and we'll be sending that out. Within that is specifically a study session on the grading policy and being able to look at that. Dr. Holman is busily working with setting up that system with the administrators to be able to review that component. School start times, if you remember, we've also had that presentation at the very end of June in regards to the work that's going to be done on that. If I remember correctly, the plan for a decision is February or March?
It would need to be sooner than that.
Okay.
Just knowing that all of the
Changing.
internal systems, but also we know our families, when you think about scheduling of daycare, scheduling of therapies, like everything gets scheduled, it seems like a year out at this point. And so even giving families 6 months is a pretty tight timeline. So it's a midwinter decision point so that we can get that moved forward.
Thank you. So if people are interested in learning more about that process and what's going, what would be the way in which they would do so?
Well, as the board knows, Mike Van Orden was tasked with leading that effort, and he left the district and went to one of our friendly districts up north. And so we've been working to reassign that and make sure that we have the right people leading that work. We've done that realignment, and so anticipating providing the board with an actual update at the next board meeting, provide communication subsequent to that to the community so that they're aware of the work, the timelines, and things like that. And so we'll also develop a web presence that people can, always go to and things like that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. The only other things to sort of highlight, so you're aware of the annual work plan, I want you to be aware there was the legislation that passed that all board members have to take an equity training that is presented by WASDA. Lake Washington will be hosting one on the 26th of October. It's a Wednesday. So it'll be from 6 to 9. It'll be fabulous, the opportunity to meet with a lot of different boards in our area and members as we come together. It's all done through very much adult education style and is very interactive. So that is a great opportunity. So I believe you might have already done that somewhere else, and that's fine, but we're just trying to make sure and make it as easy as possible to do here. If that doesn't work, we'll try to make sure we can find another location for you to be able to do so. So far, that is the date we have, yes. So I just want to make sure you save that date. More information will come on that. The other component to be aware is the WASDA Board of Distinction application session is up. It is due September 10th. I'm going to send out some information. This is an opportunity to be able to reflect back on the past year and to think about different sorts of highlights in the board work in our school district and what sorts of things we can talk about in regards to the work that we do. It's a great opportunity for self-reflection to look back. So I'll provide some of that information out for us to continue that, and we'll work with Dr. Holman to be able to put some of that together. I also just want to give a shout out, 988, for those of you who aren't aware of it. This is the national hotline that has been put together in case you're experiencing a mental health crisis. It is now operational as it is a new system, so it will take time to be as effective as we would hope, but want to make sure that everybody's aware that that hotline can connect callers to trained counselors who can help them cope with emotional distress and suicidal thoughts or connect them to additional resources. As we continue to do this, this is just additional resource beyond what we provide in our schools. It's another resource out there in which our community can be aware of and that we can help with. So I just wanted to put that in there. And I think that would be it from the board member comment side. So be looking for the work plan. When you see the work plan, think about, is there anything missing that should be on that work plan? Is there something that shouldn't be there? And the goal is really to lay out the entire year so that we're sort of prepared for what's coming down the line so that you can get the information that's needed prior. Any other comments? Director LaLiberty.
Yeah, first day of school is now approaching. In years past, there were opportunities for board members to engage at the first, welcoming the first day of school. Can you, in board docs, provide us with any of those that may exist? Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other comments or questions. All right. So with that, our next board meeting is August 22nd. We'll have a study session at 5 p.m., which you heard will be discussing results 3 as well as the social emotional learning work that's going on within our district. And then a board meeting at 7 p.m. And with that, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn the August 8th, 2022 board meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved by Director Liberty and seconded by Director Carlson to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.